All that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken. A light from the shadows shall spring. Renewed shall be blade that was broken. The crownless again shall be king. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we start something I've put off for far too long, and we are going to be doing some character reviews. Today, obviously, we're here to break down Strider. Now, Strider, also known as Aragorn the Second, King Elisar, or Estel, was born in the year 2931 of the Third Age, and lived through the Fourth Age and died in the year 120 of the Fourth Age. He grew up in the north, ranging with the Dunedain, the humans that descended from the Kingdom of the North of Arnor that fell when the Witch King of Angmar took over and destroyed that land. His father, Arathorn, died fighting a band of orcs, and he was shortly after brought to Rivendell. I think it's safe to assume that Elladan and Elrohir, the sons of Elrond Half-Elven, are probably the ones who brought him to Rivendell, considering that they were with his father on the specific ranging that he had died on. And when he was brought to Rivendell, his identity was hidden. He was only 2 years old. He was never really told who he was. And he was given the name Estel, which means hope in Sindarin, in Elven. And at the age of 20, Elrond eventually revealed his true name and ancestry, gifting him the Ring of Barahir and the Shards of Narsil. And Aragorn left Rivendell to become the chieftain of the Dunedain and patrol and protect the lands and people of the Northern Kingdom, as was his birthright. From 2957 to 2980, he also served in the armies of King Thengel of Rohan and the Steward Ecthalion of Gondor under the name Thorongil. Once the timeline of the War of the Ring started to really pick up speed, and Gandalf had discovered that Frodo had a ring and suspected it to be the One Ring, he enlisted the aid of Aragorn to track down Gollum in the Dead Marshes and brought him to Mirkwood, where Gandalf was able to question him. And finally, between that and the information he had gathered from the library in Minas Tirith, he was able to put together that Frodo did indeed have the One Ring. After this, Aragorn was able to follow the hobbits from the Barrow Downs to Bree, where he met Frodo and the rest of the hobbits at the Inn of the Prancing Pony. At the Council of Elrond, he revealed himself as Isildur's heir and joined the Fellowship on their journey to destroy the One Ring. In the Mines of Moria, when Gandalf fell, Aragorn took lead of the Fellowship and led them on to Lothlorien, down the Anduin River to Parth Galen, where eventually the Fellowship was fractured under attack by the Uruk-hai, where Boromir fell, Frodo and Sam left on their own, Merry and Pippin were captured, and Aragorn was faced with a decision whether he was going to assist Frodo and the Ring. Was he going to go to Gondor, as was his original plan? As opposed to the movies, he was never opposed to going to Gondor. That was actually his original mission with Boromir in the books. Boromir had fallen, so that was out of question for him to go on his own. So he elected to take himself, Gimli, and Legolas and go after the Uruk-hai that had captured Merry and Pippin, and ran all the way across the plains of Rohan in a span of approximately 4 days, ran into Eomer and his Rohirrim, and from then they were able to discover Gandalf the White. They were able to free Theoden from Saruman's influence. They were able to rally the people of Rohan at Helm's Deep in the Battle of the Hornburg and destroy and throw back Saruman's army. After which, he was able to proceed through the Pass of the Dead with the assistance of Elladan and Elrohir and Halbarad and the Grey Company, with those that remained of the Rangers of the North, the Dunedain. And with the Army of the Dead, they were able to come out the other side and rally the southern kingdoms of Gondor in order to rise up and attack the Pelennor fields from the south and the west side. And they're able to rally the Rohirrim, who were starting to falter. They were able to drive the foes from that area, and it resulted in a resounding win. After that, as the captain of the West, he was able to lead the armies of the West, the combined armies of Gondor and Rohan, to the Black Gate, where they fought another battle at the same time that Frodo was able to destroy the ring and able to, in order to be able to just distract Sauron and his armies from what was happening at the time, which was Frodo climbing Mount Doom and destroying the ring. Now, some things about Aragorn, that he's described as a tall, slender, dark, grim man who was prone to uh, levity at certain points. So, kind of a man who, obviously, he's old, right? He's a descendant of Numenor, so he's blessed with old age. I believe he was 210 years old by the time he had passed away. So he lived 2 to 3 times the length of a normal man. So he was just very grim and stoic in the sense that a lot of the things that people had to see and endure, he had done so 2 3 times over already. And in addition to that, he was also known as a great warrior. It was even said in The Return of the King that during the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, himself and Prince Imrahil of Dol Amroth and Eomer of Rohan were all together fighting where the battle was thickest, and all three of them were able to escape the battle unscathed, which is a testament to how powerful they were as warriors and not just as commanders. Now, some fun things in game here I want to talk about is just kind of some ideas of like different factions and different characters that could also tie into Aragorn. And you're gonna have to give me a second here because fucking BlueStacks crashed. I swear to God, every time I try to put something nice together like this, BlueStacks decides to do what the fuck it wants to do. So we're just gonna stall and keep talking. Some faction associations. Obviously, in game right now, we already have the Road to Rivendell team, so that's gonna be Strider, along with Sam and Merry and Pippin and Frodo. So you got the 4 hobbits and Strider, which I hadn't even mentioned earlier in the character background, is that Strider, Aragorn, was able to bring the hobbits from Bree to Rivendell while fighting off the Nazgul. And actually, let me walk that back. In the books, he left them, but he didn't leave them. He left Frodo to be taken to Rivendell by Glorfindel, an elf who is not in the movies. Glorfindel is one of the baddest motherfuckers in the books, and I really hope he gets added to the game at some point. But we'll get on that road eventually when we get there. So he's already got the Road to Rivendell team. He's got the Rangers team, which we've only got 4 characters in game already. We've got Halbarad, who was the captain of the Great Company. So essentially, when Aragorn left the Rangers in the books, the Dunedain Rangers, that is, Halbarad took over as kind of the de facto captain until their chieftain returned. Eladon and Elrohir, the sons of Elrond Half-Elven, were also members of the Great Company, as well as just the Dunedain Rangers of the North. And in addition to that, in-game we've got Miri, who isn't really a character in the books, but so yeah, we've got the Rangers, we've got the Road to Rivendell, and then of course I'm sure he's going to have some sort of synergy with Arwen, which comes with the game, so maybe he has a little bit of synergy with the Rivendell team itself. However, I don't believe he's going to be like the de facto character to add to that team, unless his synergy team up with Arwen like really is that strong. So some faction associations that we might see going forward, I think would be really interesting, would be a Gondor faction. So we've only got 2 Gondor characters in the game right now, and they aren't actual characters, but we could potentially see characters like Prince Imrahil. We're definitely going to see Faramir and Boromir added to the game. However, I believe Boromir would be more of a fellowship synergy with Aragorn if they went that route and added him in. Yeah, I'm not really sure what other like named Gondorian characters there would be aside from like Faramir and Imrahil that would synergize with like an Aragorn character, because the rest of the like Gondorian characters were either like relevant before he got there, well, or just before he got there, or they really didn't have a lot to do with him. Like Baragond is another named character from Gondor in the books, but he really only interacts with Aragorn like once at the crowning, or at his coronation rather. And then obviously a fellowship version of like our fellowship team with Aragorn, it would be pretty cool because if you think about it, there's 9 characters in the fellowship, right? They put 9 characters in the fellowship in order to mirror the 9 Nazgul or the 9 Black Riders that were pursuing them at the time. And we have 4 hobbits. So you take 4 out of 9, you got 5 characters left from the Fellowship, and the game itself uses 5 character teams. So we could potentially see like a legitimate Fellowship team with no hobbits, where it's Gimli, Legolas, Aragorn, Gandalf the Grey, and Boromir. And I, for one, think that would be really fucking sweet. So aside from all of that, one of the things that CG has done with Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes that I think is really cool is that they have different iterations of the same character. So like Han Solo, you've got like a young Han Solo, you've got a regular Han Solo from A New Hope, you've got a Captain Han Solo, which is like the Hoth Han Solo when he rescues Luke at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back, and then you've got your veteran Han Solo from the sequel trilogy, and same with like Chewbacca. There's like 4 different Chewbacca characters. So could we see multiple different iterations of the same character in this game? And I think you absolutely can. And Aragorn is definitely one of those characters, because in game right now we've got Strider. And notice that they didn't call him Aragorn and put him in like a Strider Ranger costume, right? Strider is just the alias that he went by, where he was known by the people of Bree, so the village just outside the Shire where men lived and some hobbits. And then when he was ranging like on the borders of the Shire folk referred to him as Strider as well. So he wasn't known as Strider in Rohan or in Gondor or in Rivendell or in Lorien or any of these other places. So I think they specifically put Strider in the game right now because it's the original way we're introduced to Aragorn, but more importantly, it saves other iterations of Aragorn for later releases. So what other iterations could we see potentially? We could potentially see, I think, just a regular like Aragorn, like a Fellowship Aragorn. At that point in the books, Aragorn has forged the shards of Narsil into Anduril, the Flame of the West, and has essentially kind of accepted the fact that he's going to be the king of Gondor. So he's a bit thematically different as a character. He's not just some scruffy fucking wandering ranger from the north or from the west, whatever you want to call it. It's weird because he's a member of the Dunedain, which means men of the west in one of the elven languages. I forget if it's Sindarin or if it's Quenya. But the Dune Edain means men of the west. Edain is the elven word for man. But they're from the northern kingdom of Arnor. So are they men of the west or men of the north? Whatever, doesn't matter. The Rangers of the North, right? The Western Rangers of the North. We'll go with that. So I digress. So we've already got Strider in game, and Strider can pair up well with a Rivendell team or with the Road to Rivendell team. Aragorn, which I think could have a lot to do with the Fellowship itself, maybe even Rohan eventually, because he's not a descendant of Rohan, right? Like that's not his nationality, but he was a big player in Rohan during the War of the Ring, and fought with them on many occasions, and actually formed a great friendship and enduring alliance with Eomer in the long run. We could have a King Elisar character. Elisar is the name that he took when he was crowned king of both Gondor and Arnor, the High King of the West. And the King Elisar would probably more than likely just be like a straight Gondor faction. So like picture like a legendary hero with Gondor. That's what I see when I think of him as that. And then if they do decide to go like the Rohan route, like maybe we'd be more likely to see like a Thorongil character, right? Thorongil was the alter ego he went by when he was fighting for King Thengel of Rohan and Steward Ecthelion II of Gondor. And I think it would be kind of like a funny, like cheeky, like April Fool's joke for you to put Aragorn in the game, but just like put like a shitty like Rohan helmet on him to like cover him up and you can't really see who he is, but like it's fucking Aragorn. Whatever. Anyways, getting into his kit, let's hop into here. Get rid of this elven tag. Let's hop into Rangers. So Strider in the game. Is he good? Yes, he's great. You turn the video off, leave, you're 14 minutes in, just cut this off. You're going to automatically end up farming him through your daily objectives. You get 5 stars for free every day, so make sure you're doing your daily objectives every single day. His leadership ability is strictly just for the Road to Rivendell team, so personally, I'm not leveling it or wasting resources on it in the game. His attack ability, what he does is he attacks the target enemy, and if they have a Bane on them, you deal bonus damage. Pretty straightforward. His second ability is going to be Burn the Shadows, and this is kind of inspired by his fight at the top of Amansul, the Watchtower of the North, where he fights the Witch King and the Jailer Nazgul, where Frodo is stabbed, Weathertop, and it's going to attack the enemies 3 times for 75% damage per hit. More obviously, as you level the ability up, it's going to inflict burning for 2 turns. Burning is a damage over time effect, so it's great if you want to like real quick like burn down a character. Heroic Charge, this is like the biggest thing for him, is this is a turn 1 ability. If you're not blinded or you're not ability blocked, you can pop this bad boy on turn 1. And especially if you have someone like Eowyn giving him offense up beforehand, this attack's going to rip through the enemy team because it attacks all enemies for 130% damage, and it has an increased critical hit chance, and both the critical hit chance and the raw damage go up as you level this ability up. So this is huge. And then his unique or his passive is he's going to gain additional crit chance. He's going to gain armor. He's going to gain additional armor for stealth, or for allies with stealth. So like the Road to Rivendell team, when the Hobbits gain stealth, he gets more armor, so he becomes more tanky. So it's kind of like a soft taunt, if you will. But yeah, when it comes to upgrade abilities, I would definitely upgrade your Heroic Charge first, and then your Burn the Shadows, because essentially, especially when it comes to Arena, you're usually not getting more than 2 turns, and you can use both these abilities in the first 2 turns. You know, if you need more than 2 turns with Aragorn on your team, he's either dead by then or you're probably fucked, to be honest. So yeah, Aragorn is definitely worth investing in, and I do think that he's got a future in the game between the Rangers becoming more and more relevant as Elladen is being added to the game, and people are now starting to focus on farming Elrohir. And if you're farming Miri out of the store, you've probably got her at 3 stars, close to 4 stars. I know I'm pretty close to my main account at 4 stars. And Halbarad is probably becoming unlocked by a lot of free-to-play players in the next week or 2. So Rangers, even though they're not the greatest team in the world to focus on right now, they're going to be gaining more and more relevance as we go through. So anyways, that's it for today's video, guys. It took me a little amount of time to try to put together a lot of this stuff for the character background of the video. It's my first time doing something like that. So if you guys enjoy it, please show some love, like the video, drop a comment down below, let me know your thoughts. Would you guys like to see more character background videos like this in the future, or would you rather just shut the fuck up, nerd, don't talk about the lore, and just give me what I need to know about the character? Because I could do that too. I can fart out 2-minute videos reading fucking abilities off of a character, but I feel like it's lazy content, and anybody can do this shit, right? Yeah, I love the lore. I love Lord of the Rings. So that's it. Love you guys. Bye.